sure used to be.
What's happening, blues people? You are still tuned into Jack Dapper Blues on WFDU HD2. And now for a segment that is very dear to my heart because, as you all know, when I speak about the blues, it's not just the music or the instrument or the songs, but it's the people that make up the culture and the heritage. And one thing that is there's a lot of things going on in our community that unfortunately has been repetitive for a long time. So I dedicate this half hour of every show to the people that take action and have solutions in combating this blues in our community. And here's one lady who has a tenure, generations of doing this, as well as her own story that's not just unique, but extremely touching. I don't even know how else to introduce you, sis.
Well, that's a great introduction, and you know what I'd like to do before actually talking about me is that let's dedicate this show to Jordan Edwards and his family, the 15-year-old who was shot by police in Dallas a couple of days ago, and
absolutely,
our minds and hearts as we proceed with this conversation.
Absolutely. You know, I had a conversation, I believe it was last night, because I'm a night owl, so time kind of, you know, it gets past, it escapes me. And the gentleman is, I guess you would call a folklorist, and he recently had a film out, a good guy, and he was explaining to me about somebody telling him how Muddy Waters and them used to have to carry guns and things based on the climate at the time when they were doing performances. And I laughed, and he said, "What's so funny?" I said, that doesn't sound far-fetched to me based on where I come from. That still happens, you know, and it's this unfortunate thing. That young man was... Anyway, oh boy, I'm sorry. Look, all right, guys, this is part of the blues, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're speaking with, is it Miss or Mrs., to be clear?
Ms. It's Ms. or Miss, whatever.
You know, I got it. Well, you know, I just want to be clear. Ms. Shawn N. Murray, activist, author, designer, futurist, social entrepreneur, host, ninja, and producer. Let's talk about it, sis, because you work to try to eradicate situations like that, correct?
Yes. I have a movement. The movement is called StopStuff, and it's exactly what it says, StopStuff, joining together to come up with innovative solutions and ideas to stop stuff that we can all agree that we don't want. Stopping gun violence, stopping poverty, stopping homelessness, stopping child abuse, stopping, you know, people like this young man from getting killed by the police. And, you know, I truly believe that we can stop those things. And you mentioned my early story or you know, sort of the beginning. And I have a history of this that flows through my blood, actually, through my ancestors. You mentioned, as we were getting on the phone, about education, and my triple great-grandfather actually taught Booker T. Washington his ABCs and educated all the black people in West Virginia.
Wow.
A grandmother who created the Michigan Institute for Child Development and had 7 campuses in Detroit before she died, which were educating kids from 1st grade through 12th grade, taking them on trips around the world, doing things that, you know, so-called charter schools do today. I have a father who started off, you know, as a social worker and then became, you know, a very successful businessman. I have a mother who's been in, you know, guidance counseling and teaching, you know, for her entire life. So, you know, what I'm doing right now, I did not know that I was going to do this, but it is my calling. It is my vocation. It is the reason that I am here, and the reason that I am here is to change the world and to save lives and empower other people to do exactly the same thing.
Well, I'm happy you said that, because I read here that you look to build this. Was it 1 million entrepreneurs? Am I correct?
Million leaders, activists, and social entrepreneurs. So empower people. Our motto for StopStuff is be yourself, change the world, because everything starts with you. Everything starts with you. You have to know who you are. You have to understand yourself. You have to love yourself completely and fully. And once you do that, and we need help. That doesn't happen naturally for all of us. Some of us are lucky or maybe raised in circumstances that makes it easy, but most of us, that takes a lot of hard work to get to that point where we become fully self-actualized. But once we do, then we can step into our destiny here on this planet, which I believe for everyone is in some way, shape, or form to positively impact people. That is our job.
Well, first and foremost, I 100% agree with you. So I would like to ask you, what are some of the things you do in regards of getting out this message and encouraging and even training folk?
Sure. Well, in terms of getting it out, I do things like what we're doing right now. Talk to as many people as possible and get the word out. And what I've done is I've created a brand around StopStuff. So, the kind of the backstory of when the brand first came about is I met Jerry Levin, who was the CEO of Time Warner, and who, he created HBO Boxing and the Madonna book and People magazine. I mean, he really created media as we know it today. The things that we take for granted are the things that he designed and created and put out there. At the time when he was the CEO of Time Warner, his son was a school teacher in New York, and his son was bound and shot in the head and murdered.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, and that completely changed Jerry's life. And I met Jerry out here actually in Los Angeles, and we met and just had this immediate bonded connection, and he shared the story with me of his son. His son's name is Jonathan. I always try to say, the names of people who have died if I know them, because I think it's important to give them that honor.
Absolutely.
That honor. And I learned through him that, when you lose a child to gun violence, there is no recovery. There is no day that gets better. There is no forgetting. There is no numbing the pain. It's something that you live with every single day. And when I understood that through him, and he was the first person I'd ever met that was directly impacted by gun violence. Wow. Commitment to him literally that day, face to face that day. I made a commitment to him that I would do something to stop gun violence. It's intolerable.
Well, I have to ask you a question. With that being said, that's a great setup, right? Because first and foremost, just to be clear to the audience, gun violence is everywhere. But for me, I'm speaking to a specific group of people because that's who I'm working to try to help, right?
Yeah, you're getting to the black people.
That's right.
About Jordan, I mean, black teens are 21 times more likely than white teens to get shot and killed by the police. It's just a fact. That's a fact that we live with. So every black boy's life literally hangs in the balance on a daily basis.
That's the blues right there. And it's unfortunate, and I'm not saying that to be cliche, it's just unfortunate we have the same story going on for over a few hundred years.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, as you say, about story. So it's Jordan is in the news because it's a police thing, but police are killing black kids, but black kids are certainly killing black kids. And I go to Chicago on a regular basis, and the numbers for Chicago are literally they're out of control, and they're not even making the national news. So right now in Chicago, what's today, May 3rd?
Yes.
3rd, there have been 1,064 people shot in Chicago from the beginning of the year. Just discuss that for a second. Over 1,000 people have been shot. Now, 183 have been killed, 881 wounded, but over 1,000 people have been shot, and that doesn't even make national news. 2 weekends ago, 38 people were shot and 7 people were killed in Chicago. Like this, we're not talking about we're in, Syria or the Gaza Strip. Or
Right.
In Chicago. And it's so normalized now that it doesn't make national news. And, I have to bring up something as I said the word normalized because, I think there's a real issue with becoming desensitized to horrific things that go on around the world.
Absolutely.
I, for one, am not willing to become desensitized. And you kind of alluded to it earlier, and I didn't mention it, but, I am a 9/11 survivor. And, being a 9/11 survivor, it sensitized me. I saw things that day that I can't unsee. I did have experiences that I can't remember well, I think for my own protection and sanity.
Absolutely.
Opened up a door and a level of compassion that I can never put back. And when you were saying, like, what do I do? That's part of the story that I tell. I want people to really understand that we have to pay attention. We can't close our eyes. We can't cover our eyes. As much as I hate the horrible things that are going on Facebook Live.
Oh, my goodness.
And the suicides and the killings. And I watched this in Canada literally get beaten to death live on Facebook Live yesterday. And the only thing I can say about that is that when I watched it, I was like, see, that, for me, because of what I do, I don't want to ever lose the sense of how bad that feels. When little kids see something that's sad or bad or
right,
they cry. And this goes to your station in the blues. The blues, it represents tears. It's tears. It's feeling. It's compassion. It's emotion.
Absolutely.
Through. So that blues, and it's so funny. I'm just thinking about it. that blues, when they were creating the blues, is because they were living in that full compassion. And artists, and I'm an artist by nature. When an artist has a strong feeling, they have to let it out somehow. Some people do it in painting or music or drawing or singing or whatever it is. But the point is they're in tune with what's happening. And we as a society have to stay in tune, as hard as it may be.
No, I agree with you 100%. And you touched on so many different things. I want to stick to one thing you said, because now we have black folk killing black folk. And we already understand that black folk are targets, especially black males. Well, I can't even say that anymore because a lot of women have been killed by police and in police custody. But to deal with the blacks killing blacks is a double-edged sword, because then you hear some folks say, well, that's not even an issue because you're always going to have crime amongst people in the same vicinity. I think that's a weak statement. Right? That is obvious, but it's also weak. You had an extreme experience that opened you up to a new level of compassion. How come in our communities, seeing someone get murdered, because we're not that young, and we've seen a lot, and I have children who unfortunately had to witness certain things. How does one become uncompassionate in moments like that rather than the opposite and work to help or fix?
Yeah, well, I think that's very difficult in the black community because we have seen so much. And the things that we endured, as being those of us who were brought over here as slaves, we had to endure things that we had to at times we had to shut those things off so that we could survive. I think that it's a survival technique that we're still living with. And I understand it. Like I said, there are things that happened to me on 9/11 that I can't, that got blocked from my mind. And I know that's based for my survival. So I understand it. And I think, too, going back to what I was saying about people becoming fully self-actualized, people really knowing themselves, people fully loving themselves. Until you do that, I think it becomes very hard, very difficult to become an empowered and compassionate person. And so that goes to what you were saying before about, the training. How do you help people to become self-actualized and compassionate human beings? They can live, the extraordinary lives that they're here to live. And I think that the responsibility is on those of us who have done that. Responsibility to teach them what we know. I remember the day that I decided, and it was only about 5 years ago, when I said, okay, I am going to step fully into my destiny. I'm going to love myself completely. I'm going to be myself every single day, no matter what, all the time, with anyone. And the moment that I made that decision, my entire life changed. And people, there are stories like this, you hear about a lot of people who are very successful. They've been homeless, or they've been abused, or they got shot, or somebody, those stories are so important. And I think we need to get back to, and I'm kind of laughing at how this all ties together, get back to, the storytelling.
The roots, absolutely.
And that's the African roots. And, something that's been also really heavy on my mind lately in terms of storytelling and the roots is we need to get back to, men raise men and women raise women.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are so important because women, can teach each other how to be women through our own experience, as can men. And that is, in terms of this gun violence and young black boys, and some of the things I'm working on right now are specifically I want black men, particularly black men who are visible, to step up, right?
Yeah.
Up and use their power and their strength and their voice to support these young men. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that I spoke about with our earlier guests. In my research and in my work, I come across a lot of organizations that share the history and culture and heritage of African Americans on this land and prior, and most of the patrons are white. Now, that's not an issue. It's not an issue that the patrons are white. It's an issue that there's no black folk there. And how do you learn about yourself if you're not there?
Yeah, well, how do you learn about a lot of things? It's like, I don't know are you familiar with who Mansa Musa is?
Yes.
Okay, so, how many people do you talk to that do not know who Mansa Musa is? Let's tell your audience, in case there's anyone who doesn't. Mansa Musa was a Malian king in the 1300s, and he is the richest human being to have ever lived.
Yes.
Ever. So he's number one. The Rothschild family is number two. Warren Buffett is number 26.
Well, I would go as far as saying King Solomon might have been one or two, then the Rothschild, but I get it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear that.
Well, you know what? Because I have to get you back on the show because we have 10 minutes left and there's so much to cover. And I knew you would be a ball of energy. I want you to explain one thing. Activism, author, designer, futurist, a lot of these things people are aware of, right? Mm-hmm. There's something here that some of us are aware of because of what we do, but a lot of people may not be, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, this pertains to the new medium of doing things, social entrepreneur. Could you explain that?
Yes. So a social entrepreneur is a business person who has committed their business to positive change in the world. That's what it is. So, I didn't even get into what the business is. So, StopStuff is it's an action-oriented, socially conscious apparel and entertainment enterprise. So all of the apparel and the branding, which is the STOP, which is STOP, P is an upside down backwards gun. That particular logo and brand is for stopping gun violence. And the other is STO, and the O is a world, stop stuff, stopping all kinds of things. And 15% of the proceeds actually goes to nonprofits that I've partnered with who are successfully, and key word is successful.
Absolutely.
Addressing these issues. And I have a background in the pharmaceutical industry, so that gives me some insight into outcomes. And StopStuff is all about outcomes. We want to show, at the end of the year, X number of dollars went to X, Y, and Z nonprofits, and here's the result.
Right.
I got to say something that, may or may not be controversial, but, I look at an organization like Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter has $100 million. And I would love to know what their plan is. I would love to see some outcomes. I would love to know what it is that they plan on doing with $100 million.
If I may, sis,
yeah.
I'm waiting for that answer myself.
Okay. So just saying, Stop Stuff, and I have a enterprise, and I have a nonprofit, and, my background is business, finance, and law. There is no person better suited to do what I'm doing than me, and that's why I'm doing it.
No, I hear you. I hear that 100%. And I will have to reach out to you off air about a couple of things because I run a nonprofit and I'm also a member and part of a media team for it's the oldest colored musicians union that's now a nonprofit. And someone like you would be great to come down there and if not help out, talk to the president, vice president, and the people that's part of it, because they've done a lot to get this organization back on its feet, and now it's time to get it to the next level. It's called New Amsterdam Musical Association, 112 years old. They own the brownstone, and it's something that what you're doing should come to Harlem.
Oh, you do know Sonetta, who's on the air?
I don't know him personally.
Well, he knows all about my stuff, and he wears the stop hat on the air, as a matter of fact.
Wow. I'm not surprised. That's what's up. Now, I want SNM. Why is that your acronym? Is that your name?
Those are my initials. As salacious as it may sound, those are my initials.
Okay. Now, there's one thing before we have to go to station ID, because you didn't mention one part of your legacy and generational legacy.
Yes.
The Motown part. You're on a blues station and not mentioning Motown. I'm surprised.
Okay, so my great aunt, her name is Raynoma Singleton, and she died actually recently, and she is really the co-founder of Motown. She's the person who she taught Smokey Robinson musical theory. She signed Stevie Wonder to Motown. She had perfect pitch. She was the person who established the publishing company for Motown, which was the most valuable aspect of the brand.
Absolutely.
She's just, I have a legacy of very strong, powerful women in my family who are here to get things done. You know what I mean?
No, I dig it. Now, could you tell the good folks what's coming up for you, where they can find you physically, on social media, the whole speed?
Sure. So find me first on our website, which is StopStuff.com, StopStuff.com, and the way you can join the movement there. You can donate to the cause. You can buy a hat, and by buying a hat, you're letting everybody know that you're somebody who believes truly that we can change the world together. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, SEANNEMURRAY. Pretty much if you put in SEANNE, most of the time I think you'll find me. And, I'm easy to reach, and, I need your help. I need everybody's help. We all do. And, one thing I want to say really quickly, because I think you'll be very excited about this, Jack.
Please, go ahead.
As of today, I have Dr. Lionel Allen, who's the Chief Academic Officer at Urban Prep Academies in Chicago, is now on my board.
Wow.
Urban Prep Academies, for people who may not know, is the school in Chicago that's all with the young black boys with 100% graduation rate. And
absolutely.
Admitted into college. So I'm really, really excited about that.
And you should be, as I am, because this is why I'm excited to have you on the show, because you're not just talking about it. You've taken actions, you have solutions, and you're traveling around the country, and I'm sure the world, placing these solutions, putting them, making it happen. And one of the things that I have issue with is there's a lot of mouth service.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember what I can't remember her name. I can't remember her name, but she was in she's in Tariq Nasheed's documentary, and I listened to an interview with her, and she said somebody came up to her and asked her when the next Hidden Colors coming out, and her response was, "Brother, we done did 4. How much more do you need to know before you take action?"
Mm-mm, that's right. Oh my! So you see that you are speaking my language. I say it all the time, and I say, stop. Even the name StopStuff is active. Stop. To stop, you have to move, right?
That's right.
Stuff. So I don't want to hear any tweeting. I don't want to hear any talking. I don't want to hear any walking. I don't want to do any marches. I want to get changed. I mean, I was actually in Chicago the day they had the women's march, and Chicago had a lot of people marching, and I did not go. And you know why I didn't go? Because I was working on StopStuff. Because I was like, I could walk around and walk. I don't need to walk.
That's right.
What are people doing? And so I think that I've created an easy way for people to participate in the process. So if you're wearing the stop gear, first of all, you're making a statement. Money is going to nonprofits that are actually doing good around the country, and you're participating. And by the way, it makes it so easy for brands to participate. So instead of a brand being guilted into contributing to Black Lives Matter, they contribute to an organization that is actively stopping things we can all agree that we need to stop. That's what it's about.
Yes, it is. In a nutshell, I thank you, and we're going to arrange to get you on here, even if you have the time to be a featured guest, so we can actually speak for the entire hour and discuss everything, the things that you're doing in more detail.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love that. Thank you so much. This is amazing. I love the music and the blues and tying it into that compassionate action. That's amazing.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work and giving us the honor of coming on the show and discussing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Talk to you soon, sis.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. You hear that, folks? This is what it's all about. Taking action. Make sure you look up StopStuff, because in the process of celebrating the blues, we want to stop stuff that caused the blues. Can you dig it? You're tuned into Jack Dapper Blues. Wait for the station ID. I'll be right back to continue blues, and you hear me.
The digital delight of jazz and what's more on WFDU HD2, TNET.